love both.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
Yeet!
As we continue filing in on a rainy Thursday from Sacktown. How is everybody doing? Ryan in Sacktown with you. What's going on? King's Court Thursday edition, November 21st. Lot to talk about. And you know what? Right on cue, look at who is in the chat. Why am I not surprised? Roy Al is back with us today. What's up, Roy Al? How's life in Kansas City? Is it treating you okay? All right. Dennis, what's up, man? Let's go. Yes, indeed. It is a Progress Report Thursday. Progress Report Thursday. I'm going to give you some of my grades. And I want to get some of your grades on the Kings so far. We've got news from practice today that we'll get to in a minute. Want to have all of you be a part of the show today. You can call in. You can chat the show. You can do whatever. Get up in here. Let's have a good Thursday. We also have news about the show that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. Good news. Something that I am excited for, and I think many of you will be excited for that as well. So yeah, get up in here. We're brought to you by Bennett's. You know our good friends at Bennett's, West Side Grill, their third location in Rockland, located in the Blue Oaks Town Center. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Now accepting pre-orders for Thanksgiving meals. You don't want to cook? Let Bennett's do it for you. You can pick it up, kick your feet back, watch football on Thanksgiving. Can't believe we're only, just about a week away. We are literally a week away from Thanksgiving. And also, if you don't like to cook and you don't like to eat at home on Thanksgiving, you like to go out, Bennett's will be open as well. 3 locations in all in the greater Sacramento area. Go check them out at bennettsrestaurants.com. So I said we have some news on the show. Beginning tomorrow, we go back to our 2 o'clock time slot. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 p.m. right here on If You Don't Like That. We will be back to normal Wednesdays. We do not have a King's Court. It is audio only. You can pick that up on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. You'll be able to find it there, the King's Court with Rhino, because we've got Sean Salisbury and Grant on the channel at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays. And then 4 o'clock, our Kings Roundtable with Jerry Reynolds. Always a very good show. Always a fun show. So we've got plenty of content. Kings back in action tomorrow night against the Clippers. Last time we were here on the Kings Court, a lot of heated debate about the plus-minus statistic, whether it holds a lot of weight, whether it's a stat that you can really hang your hat on. Also, a lot of talk about Alex Len. Not really planning to do an Alex Len heavy show, but if you want to go there, I guess we can go there. We are doing progress reports for the team through 15. So, yeah, get up in here. Would love to hear from you. Also, tomorrow, it is the debut of Horsing Around with the NFL. If you were not here earlier this week, I let my 10-year-old pick my NFL games against the spread last week. He does not watch football. He couldn't name you more than 1 or 2 teams in the NFL. The kid went 7-6 ATS. 7-6 on Sunday. So Haunted Horse usually rolls in here on Fridays. He likes to give some picks. He likes to talk some parlays. So here's what we're doing. We are pitting Haunted Horse against Liam. Now, would not be responsible for my son to be on this show, but what we will do is pre-record his picks. So I will get his picks tonight, and we'll get Horse's picks tomorrow live on the show. We'll also have our WWE segment, which is a lot of fun with Adam and all of you. Fridays are a little bit more relaxed around here. Fridays are all about you. So you can come in at any time. Multiple people can come on the show at the same time. That's why we call it a Royal Rumble Friday. So looking forward to that. Remember, 2 o'clock, we go back to our 2 p.m. time slot beginning tomorrow. So thanks for kind of following us around. I know the timing has changed during the season because of programming and away games and East Coast games. So 2 o'clock will be the time going forward through the end of the year for the King's Court that you can find us right here on If You Don't Like That. Make sure you are subscribed. If you've not subscribed yet, that's where all of our programming lives. You can find our pregame, halftime, postgame shows, and much more right there on the channel. Would love to have you subscribed to the channel, because you'll find so many different shows on there that don't necessarily relate to the Kings. I talked about the NFL show with Sean Salisbury, really good one. Also, we've got some great interviews and conversations on the channel with guys like Scott Pollard, Ian Eagle, just to name a few. So make sure that you hop on there. Be a part. We're not going to spam you in your email. We're not going to listen to you like Siri and what's the other one? It's the one from Amazon. Siri and Alexa. Siri and Alexa. So anyways, let's get to it. There is a lot to talk about. We know the Kings have been injured. They have had the injury bug going around, just like many other teams in the NBA. Practice just wrapped up. DeMar DeRozan and Domas were both full participants in practice, meaning it is expected, Chris Haynes is reporting this, that DeMar will play tomorrow against the Clippers. Domas, same thing goes. Coach Brown said that he is expecting, keyword there, expecting for Domas to play tomorrow in LA as well. As for Malik Monk, he did not go through the team portion of practice today. He only did individual work, non-contact, so he still might be a little bit away. He might be a couple games away, but that is the latest on your injury situation. It'll be nice to have DeMar back. It'll be very nice to have Domas back. And now you've got a bench that has kind of got some minutes under their belt. Guys that did not get a lot of run before, maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable. But we swing back to the same question that we've asked for how many years? Now 2 years. What's Mike Brown's rotation going to look like? Are we going to have a consistent rotation? We talked about it yesterday on the roundtable. I'm not so sure that the rotation is going to be consistent like you see with other teams, simply because the personnel, you can't really argue with that. Mike Brown's had his hands tied to a degree early on in the season with a lack of depth on this team, but now you have Orlando Robinson at your disposal. You also have more minutes. Well, I shouldn't say more minutes at your disposal, but more opportunities with Malik Monk out and likely not playing tomorrow night if you go off of what we're hearing from practice today. So who's going to absorb those minutes? The Clippers, they won last night against Orlando. We can hit them a little bit later in the show as well. Before we do that, let's get back to the chat. Want to hear from all of you. I will put the link back in the chat if you'd like to call the show. You can take it any way you want. There is no shortage of topics today. I have plenty of content to carry us for 90 minutes. You've got the new NBA power rankings. I do talk about them. I don't mind talking about them. I know Grant hates them, but I'll give them a little bit of run. Not that I put a ton of credence into them, but I do like to look at them. I like to see what teams are running hot, what teams are running cold, all that kind of stuff. So we've got those to talk about. How about Hubie Brown hanging it up? Hubie Brown, been announcing games, been coaching games into his 90s. This is going to be his last season. He's had a really rough year. He lost his wife and his son. One of the best to ever do it. I love listening to Hubie Brown. I learned something about basketball every time I listen to Hubie Brown do a game. How about Mark Jones? He's in the news. As much as I don't want to talk about that guy, he is in the news. He firmly put himself in the news, so we can talk about him as well. You've got a new NBA All-Star game format. Adam Silver throwing anything against the wall to see if it will stick, to see if it will make the players take that game serious. We can talk about that. Certainly, we also have the progress reports. I can start kicking those out to all of you, and I want to get your feedback on those as well. So Adam's just straight up giving us a grade. He's giving us a team grade. C minus. Yeah, I guess so. C minus, Adam. Is that for the team? Is that for this show? Is that for your segment on Fridays? What's the C minus for? Help me out, buddy. Steely Beats. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Hope you are having a great one. John's giving love to Royale. John, do not give Royale love. You don't know what kind of karma is going to shoot back at you. Remember, the Kings shipped him back to Kansas City, so we don't have to see him anymore. Thank you, Slamson. For once, the Kings listened to public opinion on that one. The G1C, when they played the promo, whatever it is, the first night the Kings wore their City Edition uniforms, the crowd started booing when Royale came on the screen. That tells you how much that city took to him. Yeah, well, I got 10 against Liam. Dude, I'm telling you, this kid's on a streak. 7-6 last Sunday for the NFL. BJ, having my girlfriend do my picks this week. You know what? It's so funny how that works. Like, I used to take the NCAA March Madness brackets so serious. I would be the guy sitting at the bar, having dinner, just doing my research, hammering out strength of schedule, looking at conference play. And inevitably, every single year, it's the secretary who doesn't even know what basketball is that wins the March Madness pool. It's the girlfriend who picks teams off of their colors or their mascots that wins. It just never works out. It's one of those things. So yeah, if you want Liam's picks, if you want to go off of Liam's picks, you will have that opportunity tomorrow. We'll record his picks tonight for everybody to check out. Mr. Moss, we're going to get to him in 1 second. Can't wait to talk to him. Have not heard from Mr. Moss in a minute. Will De'Aaron finally make an all-star game this year? We'll see. He's got some stiff competition. Think about the guards in the Western Conference. It's going to be hard. I mean, think about the year that Domas put together up until the All-Star break last year, and he didn't even make it. If De'Aaron plays like he's played the last few games, then how can you deny him? Inevitably, somebody's not going to play. They're going to pull out, and then the coaches are the ones that decide the replacements. But if De'Aaron plays like he played up until his 60-point game, well, the game before he played pretty well against Phoenix as well, but up until that 60-point game, then probably not. But it's certainly something to watch. Indeed, let's see. BJ, Mark Jones, like La Diddy, is narcissism on parade. Yeah, you know what? He put himself... He put himself into the news cycle. He chose it, not me. So I'm obligated to hit it. I am more than willing to hit it. BJ's giving him a B. Royale looks like Scrooge. Royale looks like something that should be sold at the spirit shop before Halloween. Should be a costume. That's what it should be. Speaking of calls, love talking to this man. Mr. Moss, what's up, dude?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good. How you been, brother?
Not too bad, man. Just working, that time of the year, Thanksgiving, Christmas time. So, we're actually planning a trip to check this out, man. We're going to Memphis on December 4th. The Kings played the Grizzlies in Memphis on December 4th, and so I just found out yesterday that's what we're doing. And so,
nice.
That's crazy. I'm not. I know this is. I just says, okay, let's go. Let's do it.
That's awesome. I mean, you won't have trouble getting a ticket there. It's not too hard.
Oh no! And we found like seats behind like the basket, like 2 rows back for $100 a piece.
Yeah, there you go.
And so we gotta do that. But let's see here. Kings are 1 game over 500. They're 11th in the West. They've had some injuries. They lost some close nail biters. I give them a solid C+. Solid C+. maybe even a B minus. It's hard to judge a team when they have injuries. I'm just sorry. I mean, I can't put full emphasis into it until they're fully healthy. But 8-7. A lot of teams are bunched up right there between 3-11 with 4 losses, 5 losses, 6 losses, 7 losses. So again, don't hit the panic button. Get back, get healthy, make your run. It's okay. It's still early, and so if you're a Kings fan, don't get too high, don't get too low. Stay even kill. This is a very good team, and you know what I'm saying. And so it's it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and so stay the course.
Your Rockets are sitting at 4th right now.
That's my next topic right there, Ryan.
11-4. Are the Rockets here to stay?
Yes, they're 11-5. I apologize. I think so. If they can stay healthy, they can win some games. They lost a tough no-biter versus the Milwaukee Bucks a few days ago with Dame, and they should have closed that game out, had a 6-point lead down the stretch, and quick shot making and stuff like that killed them. But overall, though, I mean, they've been playing some good basketball, and Jalen and Sengun got paid their money like they wished.
Right.
And I thought once the Rockets did that, they were taken off. And dude, have you seen Tari Eason? Oh my God.
I have.
Come on.
He did a lot of work with Kawhi Leonard in the offseason,
Mm-hmm.
and it's paying dividends right now. I'm wondering what the ceiling is for him. What do you see out of him specifically?
So I do a podcast, or I have a friend who does a podcast with the Rockets. He's in Houston, and they threw some names around, a young Kawhi, a young Scottie Pippen. Those guys were a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more skillful than he is. He's shooting the 3 ball at a very high rate in the mid 40s or low 40s. He's shooting a high percentage. He's definitely a energy player, defensive guru, right? Tall, lengthy, do everything. I think his ceiling can be, if I had to compare him to a player, those kids in Minnesota, Alexander Walker or somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, right? And that's okay on this roster. You know what I'm saying? Because his shots are few and far between, so he needs to make his shots when he's open, and he's been doing that. But Alexander Walker or somebody like that, maybe a little bit better, somewhere around there, and I'm okay with that. But the Rockets, man, good basketball, and you're starting to see Ime Udoka's coaching acumen pay dividends.
He's great.
He knows how to get to guys a certain way, and you can tell too. And then in the fourth quarters, Ryan, they're letting Tyree finish the games out. They're putting Dylan on the bench, and they're going to that guy. And so he's a known. Listen, he's not worried about the name on the back of your jersey. He doesn't care what you did years ago in Memphis. What are you doing right now? Right. Oh, you're shooting bad right now? Go have a seat. And, that comes from that old school Greg Popovich, being around that organization. He's a no-nonsense type of guy. He's going to say it like it is. And here's my last point on the Rockets, and I have one more topic if it's okay. Real quick.
Dude, lay it out.
The Rockets have allowed him to coach, right? Stone has allowed him to coach. Not get in his way. He's asked for certain type of players. He's gotten them. Mm-hmm. And so now the onus is on him. And so the Rockets are following the San Antonio Spurs playbook. Owners own, GMs get you the players, and coaches coach. Meaning a player can't go around Ime and go to the top.
Right.
And complain. No.
Tillman's hands off. Tillman is completely hands off.
He's hands off. And he was out here a few years ago because if I'm not mistaken, he owns the Morin Steakhouse downtown Sac.
Yeah.
And I was eating there one time, and it was a day before the Rockets were in town, and he was here eating there.
Oh,
and,
cool.
I had a Rockets shirt on. He was, hey, man, I says, and we were just chatting a little bit. Anyways, but the Rockets can sustain this if they're healthy, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I like what they're doing a lot. Van Vliet earning his money too, really picking them up well.
Yeah, and Rhino, Fred and Jalen haven't shot the ball the best this season to start the season out. They're shooting low percentages. That's not like them, but they're doing other things. Oh, and then we're a top 5 defense. Look at the Rockets' defensive rating. They're right there with the best of them. And again, there's when you defend and rebound. Ask the Cavaliers this: when you defend and rebound, you're always going to be in games, even when you're not playing well offensively. And so that's a plus too.
And that's not an overnight thing. They were so annoying to deal with last year. Their athleticism, their length on defense. I mean, I remember 3 or 4 plays right off the top of my head where they were tipping balls, getting out in transition, and just putting the Kings away at times last year. So, yeah, good stuff.
Just real quick, and I can take this off air. Tonight's game, Pittsburgh is playing, I think, the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not going to lie to you. The Steelers' last few games, Washington, Baltimore, I believe a little bit. I think they're for real. I think that defense is for real. I think Russell is doing just enough game managing, making key throws when he has to. He doesn't have to be Mick Holmes per se. But this is a team that can get to the Super Bowl because of their defense. And they convert on third down. With Justin Fields in there, they were a bottom half passing team. And they're slowly creeping to becoming an average offensive team. They're not great offensively, but Russell is, you can see the experience with him playing quarterback. And last point, they used Justin Fields last week on like a fourth down play or something like that to get the first down. And so they can still implement him in certain possessions, depending on, field position, what have you. But, I mean, you take them seriously? I mean, are they a team that can compete, in the AFC when it's all said and done?
Of course I take them seriously. Are you kidding me? You feel that team for 2 weeks after you play them. They're so physical. They wear you down, and it is the exact formula. When Russell Wilson got traded to Denver, Moss, I'm like, you better build a program around him because this dude's not Patty Mahomes. This dude isn't Jared Goff. He's one of those guys that you just laid out right there. He makes the throws when he needs to. He manages the game right. He's not as elusive anymore on his feet, but yet he doesn't need to be really because the line's actually playing fairly well, in my opinion. And so it's the perfect situation. And still, as much as I still love Russ. I know he's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Nobody throws a softer deep ball than Russ. He just drops it in. It just floats in. And so, and what do you say about Mike Tomlin? I mean, something that surprises the hell out of me year after year is you always have a segment of Steelers fans that are like, fire Tomlin, fire Tomlin.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking?
Well, just like a point guard is the extension of the coach, right? I think that's to be true. Mike Tomlin's input is all over this team. Like when I see them play, I think of him. No nonsense, hard nosed, gritty. I mean, I see him during warmups. He's fired up, and so I mean, he's done a great job with those guys. They trust him. They listen to him, and you can see his implementation on that team. And so I mean, they're gonna be tough to beat, man. But that's it though, man. So always good talking to you, buddy.
Yes, you too. We gotta get to Bennett's. We gotta get to Bennett's, dude.
You tell me when. You tell me when.
I'll hit you up.
The Kings have the next 5 games. I don't know what, the Clippers, you got the Nets, Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. And so they should probably go 2-3, 3-2, somewhere around there, hopefully 3-2. But so we'll see. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
for sure.
Stay the course.
Stay the course, brother. Appreciate you as always.
Sir.
Mr. Moss, I could talk to Mr. Moss literally for an entire show. I could do a podcast with Mr. Moss. He knows his stuff. Good dude. Really, really good dude. The Steelers thing is really interesting to me. And here's why. Nobody wants to see the Steelers in the playoffs. Nobody wants to see the Steelers in the Super Bowl because they're not sexy to watch. It's not a fun team per se to watch unless you appreciate hard-nosed football, unless you appreciate the little things, the trenches. They're not flashy. They're not anything special, but they're so fundamental. They're so physical. And I guess the only question for me, and usually a Tomlin team can do this, is can the Steelers maintain that throughout the rest of the year into the playoffs? Because that's a different style. That's a different brand of football. And when you're the aggressor, it's much different than being the one taking it, but that grinds on you. So can they stay healthy? Does attrition catch up to them? I don't think it does. This is what this team has trained for. Tomlin is probably probably right up there for coach of the year with Jim Harbaugh. And how about that defense in San Diego, in Los Angeles? The defense has been unreal there too. So really interesting, the fact that the Steelers have knocked off the teams that Mr. Moss says as of late in the Russell Wilson experiment. It worked, or at least it's worked up until this point. That first game that Russ came in, started to get the boo birds in the first quarter, first half, and I'm thinking, you've got to let this dude throw the deep ball. You have to. And then they finally let him throw the deep ball. That opened things up. They end up getting that game. But yeah, I don't think there's very many people in this chat that would like to see the Steelers in the Super Bowl. In fact, I bet if I asked many of you, what's the worst Super Bowl from the contenders that we have right now, out of the teams that are projected to make the playoffs, what is the worst Super Bowl matchup, in your opinion? I bet half of your answers would include the Steelers. I bet they would. So anyways, back to the chat. Royale D-. You're going to give Royale a D-, BJ?
D.
A D, huh? I don't have the minus on the back end of that. Trade Eason to the Kings. That ain't happening, Dennis. Come on, man. That's not happening. Would be nice, though. Fred is Chris' brother. What's that mean, Adam? I don't know what that means. Bench the injured starters for another night tomorrow and tank the stupid cup. Yeah, Adam, that makes all the sense in the world. Damn! No, it doesn't. It's not about the cup. It's a regular season game, my man. It's a regular season game. You don't tank a regular season game in the Western Conference. What this comes down to for the Kings, and we hit on it yesterday on the roundtable, is it's going to be a coin flip night in and night out in the Western Conference. Because even some of the teams at the bottom of the West, and by the way, if you have not heard, Luka is going to be missing time for Dallas with a wrist injury. And Dallas has been treading water towards the bottom of the West so far this season. You look at the standings right now, they're 8-7. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They've won their last 3 in a row. So that's good. Their net ratings come up a little bit. But Dallas has not looked like Dallas last year. I think one of the big reasons for that, one of the huge reasons for that, is Derrick Jones Jr. He inserted athleticism into a lineup that was predominantly, I know you have PJ Washington, he hasn't played a ton, but a lineup that was kind of old. Luka's not super athletic. Luka's great, don't get me wrong, but he's not jumping out of the gym. Derrick Jones Jr. gave that to this team, and now you put Klay Thompson in his place, and Klay Thompson, can shoot the three, but he's not going to be out there, doing anything spectacular athletically at this point of his career. And I get that he dropped some weight. He looks good, but you got to wonder if this Dallas formula is going to work, because Kyrie's always good for missing some games. Luka's always good for missing some games. But getting back to my point, the Western Conference, San Antonio, without Wemby, they've played well, right? Portland, how about Portland? They have played well. They beat the Timberwolves 2 nights in a row. So your Western Conference games are going to be a coin flip, whether you're playing somebody at the top of the division or somebody at or conference or the bottom of the conference. So what I'm saying to you is, when you play somebody from the East, you've got to win. The Kings have to win their games against the East to make up for that. Because the West, I don't remember the last time I've seen the Western Conference this good. I think you've got to take it all the way back probably to 2001, 2002, late 90s. I think you got to go back that far to see when the West was this much better across the board in the East. Because you look at the numbers in the East. Here's how the East shakes out right now. You've got Cleveland, 16-1. You've got Boston, 12-3. And then it drops off. New York, 9-6. Orlando, 9-7. Miami, 6-7. The 5 seed in the East is under 500. 6-7. How about that? The play-in, the 10 seed right now, Milwaukee, 6-9. So if you're the Kings, you have to handle business against the East. There is no excuse whatsoever for it. But tomorrow you got the Clips. You got them in LA. Get your glasses out because their court is bright. I mean, it is really bright for the NBA Cup. I know Adam's talking about that. These two teams, when they match up in LA, something special always happens. Now, remember, they got the breaks, the Kings beat off of them in the preseason in LA in the new Intuit Dome. And G-Man, if for whatever reason you end up seeing this, you end up hearing my voice, G-Man, I will send a printer to the Intuit Dome for you, brother. I know you need your paper. You did not get your paper last time the Kings were down there, and you had a tough broadcast. You handled it like a professional. You did awesome, but you didn't have the things. You didn't have the tools that you needed. So, G-Man, you hit me up. We will make sure you have a printer. But anyways, getting back to it, the Kings got the breaks beat off of them in the 5th preseason game. Then the Clips come into the G1C, beat the Kings there. It was the second night of a back-to-back for the Kings in that one. I worry about the athleticism of this Clippers team. And more than the athleticism, I worry about the pick and roll. It's all the Clippers do. Pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. The Kings' pick and roll defense has not always been great. Pick and roll defense is so much about communication. It's about being on the same page. It's about game plan. And with Mike Brown's rotations right now, with the guards, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. Who are you going to have blowing up screens right now? Well, we've got Keon. Jordan McLaughlin can't stay on his feet half the time, and I still think he's doing a good job, but defensively, he's kind of all over the place, unfortunately. So you got to have Foxy out there. You've got to have DeMar back. You've got to have a little bit more of a deck to play with tomorrow night because the Kings got to get this one. They have got to get this one coming off the loss against Atlanta. We have our grades coming up as well. So if you have grades, I've put my grades out, or at least I've graded out the starters. I've graded out the bench. I've graded out Malik, and I've graded out the coaching staff. So those are my progress reports. I've got a little bit on each one of them. As for the Kings, I want to talk about some stats really quick before we get into progress report grades that have really surprised me a little bit. How many times am I going to say a little bit? I'm kind of avoiding the Mark Jones thing. I need to do it, but do I want to do it? Is it necessary to do it? He did it to himself. I don't know. Should I hit the Mark Jones thing? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Not sure if I should hit it. Anyways, back to the Kings and the stats. I did a deep dive into what's going on with this team. And where I started was the principles of this team. I went back to training camp and I thought, what were the Kings focusing on in training camp? What were going to be the staples that Mike Brown needed from this team? And the first thing, what's up with the damn? Why do you want the damn? You want the Mark Jones thing? Is that it? Talk about a hypocrite. Talk about a hypocrite. Anyways, getting back to the Kings. I thought back to the principles. I'm like, okay, what was Coach Brown talking a lot about in training camp? One of them, offensive rebounding, right? And so this is where I started when I started thinking about grading this team out, giving them their progress reports. Principle number one, offensive rebounding. we're going to have crash zones. We're going to handle the boards. We're going to get second opportunities. We're going to keep teams off the offensive boards. We're going to limit their opportunities. And when I look at that statistical category, it has not happened up until this point in the season. In fact, the Kings offensive rebounding so far in the season, they are 27th in the NBA. 27th in offensive rebounding. Now, they're not doing bad at keeping teams off the glass. They're the 9th best team in the NBA at keeping their opponents off the offensive boards. I can live with that. You know why I can live with that? You've got a couple of numbers in there that were massive outliers. I don't remember the game. It was a couple of games ago. But the Kings had, the other team had like 19 offensive rebounds. Was it Phoenix? It was Phoenix. It was the Phoenix game where they had like 19 offensive rebounds. And that was a team that averaged 8.5 offensive rebounds per game. And so I'm thinking, well, why isn't that working? Why are the Kings not able to rebound as well? Well, let's be fair. They've got to the free throw line more, right? So opportunities at rebounding have been more limited. Can't complain about them getting to the free throw line. You look at their free throws right now, their made free throws so far this season are up 21%. That means that their free throw numbers are tracking with 22-23 the year they made the playoffs. That's huge because the Kings were down 20 to 21% last year. You look at free throw attempts, they're up 9% this year. It was a lot higher before this last week of basketball, before Domas and DeMar got hurt, but that's still up. You look at percentage, it's up 8.2%. That is a lot year over year. Number one team in the NBA. So, okay, I can counteract my thought about the offensive rebounding with the free throws. That makes sense. That's a logical conclusion to reach. Peter hopping in. We're going politics. Rhino, president-elect, has chosen Linda McMahon to be his education secretary. What is the curriculum going to be if confirmed by the Senate? Adam, what do you say? I have no idea, Peter. Here's what I do know. Linda McMahon might still be married to Vince McMahon on paper, but those two have been living in separate worlds for a really, really long time. So if you're worried about any type of, I don't know, any type of input from Vince into education, it's not going to be there. And Linda, I believe, was working, she's been working with Trump for, I want to say 3 or 4 years. So it's not a surprise. Now, you know what was a surprise? Karl Malone being President Trump's pick to head up Child Protective Services. And we're not going politics here. Don't want to go politics here. But how about that? Karl Malone to head up Child Protective Services. Interesting. Adam, they're going to reach ratios 316. Here we go, man. We're going so wrestling heavy now. All right, let's put some stats up here while I continue to talk through my grading system and giving you an explanation on where I arrived at, where I'm at on some of these. And then also, I think it's important too, I'm going to point out some areas that might surprise a lot of you. So we talked about the offensive rebounds, right? Here's your King stats through last game. So we've talked about the offensive rebounds. I should probably put myself on the screen too. There we go. Okay. So offensive rebounds covered. I get that principle. I get why it's a little bit negated. What was the next principle for this team? Pace. Pace, pace, pace. Monty McNair, Coach Brown, both said they were hoping to have this team right in the top 5 in pace in the NBA. Right now, they are 15th in the NBA. with pace. Yeah, BJ, I'm not going to put it up, but certainly it's a little bit concerning. Yes, I get where you're going with that. That's why I said that. Now, yeah, not going to put it up, but yes, it's fair. There is allegations there. So that's what's a little bit weird. Now, the Linda McMahon thing, that I don't think there's anything weird to. She's been involved in politics for a while. Anyways, back to the King. We need a refresher. Let's cleanse our palate. Marv, help me out here. Okay, are we good? Are we reset? Do we need a yeet?
Yeet!
Anything else? Are we reset? Are we back to normal? We good? Do we need to give Johnny one of these?
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Okay. All right. We're back to normal. Back to talking about the Kings. So, pace. It's not there. It's simply not there. Now, one of the things that went with pace for the Kings, which I think is very important to note, was in training camp, they were talking a lot about getting to the corners. Okay. All right. If that's what we need to do to get back on track, Peter.
That don't make no sense.
There we go. We're back on track. Are we good? Are we good? Let's check in with the producer. Producer. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Just hi? Are we back on track? Are we back on track, producer?
Hi.
Just hi? Okay. Producer's lost. You guys got the producer completely off track. And what now? Jim Rome wants
And then
some?
Ryan just busted you up.
I didn't just bust up the producer, Romy. Just chill. Okay. Can we get back on track?
Damn!
All right. We are good. Okay. Pace in corners. The Kings have been tracking guys getting to the corners. De'Aaron Fox in training camp was the best at getting to the corners. Let me throw a really concerning stat at you about three-point shooting. As I looked into it and I did my deep dive, check this out. The Kings' three-point shooting percentages, I tweeted this out yesterday. Really shocking. Really shocking. From the left corner, the Kings are shooting 29 of 73. From the right corner, they're shooting 28 of 58 on the season. All other places in the half court, they're 122 of 391. You add in 6 more threes that were beyond half court, which were full court shots. The Kings' three-point percentage is 100, or the three-point percentage as we sit today is at, got my paper right here, 34%. They have attempted 527. They have made 179. So the Kings are not getting to the corners. But when they do get to the corners, they're shooting an extremely high percentage. Let me repeat that. Right corner, 28 of 58. That is almost 50%. That is right around 50%. The corner three is the easiest three on the floor. And that's where Keegan Murray made a killing. So why aren't the Kings getting to the corners? I also looked at the assist numbers, right? Assists. We've worried about that a little bit. We worried about De'Aaron passing up assists or driving, getting to the paint for three-pointers. I said when DeMar was out, when Domas was out, you only had one creator, and Malik was out. You only had one creator on the roster, and the numbers bear it out. Check this out. Jordan McLaughlin, he's only made 5 unassisted baskets this year. Kevin Huerter has only made 7 unassisted baskets. Keon, 6. Malik, 22. And then you hop up to Domas, 35. Your two guys that are ISOing and ISOing well, De'Aaron, he's got 111 unassisted baskets leading the Kings. And then you've got DeMar DeRozan with 70 unassisted baskets. So when I look at the 3-point percentage, when I look at the assist numbers, and I look at the low number of unassisted baskets, it makes all the sense in the world. The Kings aren't moving the ball enough. The Kings got to move the ball more. Now, this is over a 15-game stretch. So we got to take into account that we've seen a little bit of a different De'Aaron Fox in the last 3 games. I created what I call the Fox formula. It is 3-point attempts should be right around in the same neighborhood as assists for the game. If De'Aaron's 3-point attempts are in the same neighborhood of assists, the Kings are usually playing their best basketball. Also, some other stats that popped off the charts to me. Keegan Murray, everybody talking about his struggles right now. Do you know his personal net rating is the highest of his career right now? That is why the other day when Dennis and some others, I think it was PK, were talking about Alex Len being the worst King and justifying it because he has the worst plus minus, I said you can't use that stat. That is a deceiving statistic. You can't judge a player off of their plus minus. However, you can judge a player off of their net rating because that takes much more into account. So Keegan Murray, despite his offensive struggles, he has his highest net rating of the year at of his career at 4.9. His rookie year, you guys, when the Kings had the best offense in the history of the NBA per offensive rating, his net rating was 1.7. Last year, Keegan's net rating was 2.7. His net rating this year is almost jumped, yet his offense is non-existent. It's not there most nights. So where's the justification there? It's the defensive end. It's what we already knew. Keegan Murray is balling out on defense for this team. Now, does he need to be able to play both sides of the floor? Sure. Is there things the Kings could do better to get others involved? Sure. So let's go to my first midterm. I want to get to my first midterm, and it is right here. It is the coaches. I want to talk about the coaches. That's why I started with the staples that this team wants to do. They want to play fast. They want to crash the boards. They want to get to the corners. They want to defend without fouling. Well, let's talk about the 3-point defense. And it's bad. This team right now, their defensive rating, believe it or not, they're 14th in the NBA. They are middle of the pack. They are just a little bit better than middle of the pack. I remember Mike Brown sitting in his exit interview after the Kings season where they made the playoffs and lost to the Warriors in 7, saying, if this team could just be a middle of the pack team defensively, we've got something special. Well, guess what? You're there right now. You're there. You are 14th in defensive net rating, in defensive rating. You're 14th despite the fact that you are 28th in the NBA at 3-pointers allowed to your opponent. 28th. They are allowing 40 3-pointers a game. Even worse than that. Their percentage that they are allowing to their opponents, 28th. 38% from beyond the arc is what they're allowing. So what's wrong with the defense? Could you imagine if that 3-point percentage defending the 3 was better? They would be in the top 10. You cut that in half. They are in the top 10, if not maybe the top 5 in the NBA in defensive rating. And so then I think, All right. Well, we've seen this weird trap thing, right? We've seen the Kings doubling a lot. I forget who brought it up. I believe it was Brian who called the show. He's like, yeah, the Kings are doubling in the wrong spots. And they are. He's absolutely right. The Kings are one of the only teams that are leaving somebody open on the weak side consistently. Consistently. And in the NBA, you're going to knock that down most times. So, as for the defense, I can't knock them too hard. I can't. You're middle of the pack. They have always had a problem defending the 3-point line, but yet Mike Brown has had two teams that he has coached for a full season who have been the best at defending the 3-point line in the NBA. So, trying to make sense of those two things, it's an evolving practice. It is something they're going to have to keep chipping away at as the season goes. And you have to take into account the fact that they do not have, Mike Brown does not have defensive players. He doesn't have the ingredients to make a defensive masterpiece. He's making do with what he has defensively. Now, let's switch to the offense. I told you the corner three numbers. Offensively, this guy has every ingredient in the kitchen in that starting lineup to be the best team offensively in the NBA. When I look at what the Kings have done with De'Aaron Fox over the last 3 games, while it definitely gives me hope, it cannot sway my total midterm grade, my progress report grade for what the coaches have done offensively. Luke Laux sent De'Aaron a text. They had a film session. Luke challenged him to get to the paint more. And sure enough, it's the De'Aaron, it's the all-NBA version. It's the De'Aaron this team has been waiting for. It's the De'Aaron that cannot be stopped, that is playing to his number one strength. And it helps other guys get going too, because the ball doesn't stop on De'Aaron. Because coach has made it pretty clear throughout the season, let it fly, let it fly, let it fly. And I actually think that is the wrong principle for this team. When you're letting it fly, you are not maximizing your strengths. You got to get the ball moving. When the Kings move the ball for 6 seconds or more, guess what? They shoot the three at almost a 45% clip. 45%. So this offense needs more structure. You have to call more set plays. You have to make a point. We need to take a step back and quit bashing Keegan Murray by saying, well, he needs to get himself involved. You can't do it. It throws off the flow of the game. If Keegan just starts hucking up shots outside of what the Kings are doing, it throws everybody off. Coach Brown has to be better at getting Keegan involved. Coach Brown needs to call timeouts and set plays out of those timeouts. Coach Brown needs to be less predictable, in my opinion. We know what the first play of the game, every game is going to be. It's Kevin Huerter coming off of a couple pin downs. I am not going to ding Coach Brown for his bench. He had to play what he had. That bench was not very good. That bench still isn't very good. That bench is improving. The question becomes, can that bench get to the All-Star break where you can make a move? Because I don't think that bench is going to be good enough to get you all the way through. So at the end of the day, when I look at what coaches had to deal with to integrate DeMar DeRozan, when I look at the executions of the principles of this team, and I look at the minutes the starters have had to play, Coach Brown, it's a
C.
It's a C for me. It's a C. Doesn't mean that he's doing a bad job, but it's a C.
C.
He has not, the challenges up until the last couple games have not been used well, although the percentages will tell you otherwise. So it's a C. Where do you guys stand on coaching? Where do you think the Kings stand right now with coaching? What grade do you give the coaching staff and Coach Brown? I give it a C right now. But I have high hopes when we do this again. This team is probably going to be, I would say coaching, B- to B+ easily the next time we talk, because it feels like they are starting to figure it out. You look at the Kings net rating right now. The Kings net rating, well, I should say their net rating over the last 5 games is 0.40. The reason it's 0.40 is because of the injuries. Their net rating for the season right now, it's pretty solid, actually. Much more solid than last year. It's 3.2. Net rating over the last 10 games, 1.6. Here's the other thing. I looked at net rating by quarter. The Kings are killing themselves in the second quarter. The second quarter for the season, the Kings net rating during that quarter is a negative 0.5. Negative 0.5. So who do you pin that on? Is that the players? Is that because of the bench? Is that because of the rotations? Where is that at? That means you can count every game on a lull coming during the second quarter. And the fact that we're nailing, or I'm hitting on all these things that seem negative, they're easy to fix. They can be fixed. And this team is still a game above 500. BJ gives coach a C-. There you go. Okay. Coach Brown needs to go away from the catch and shoot and back to motion offense, more ball movement. Exactly right, BJ. The assist to turnover ratio. So check this out. When the Kings win by 20 or more, their assist to turnover ratio is 2.24. When the Kings win by 16 to 20, it's 2.17. 2.17 assists to turnovers. So 2.17 assists to 1 turnover. You want more, you want a 2-to-1 ratio. Everything outside of 16 to 20 or more than 20 points for a win, the Kings are below a 2-to-1 ratio in assists to turnovers. So the ball is simply not moving enough. There's no other way to put it. Now, in the third quarter, the Kings have done a pretty good job of moving the ball. You know, the Kings in the third quarter, for their three-point percentage, I told you it's 34%. But in the third quarter, they're shooting 42.6% from beyond the three-point line, which means they're moving the ball. They're coming out of halftime. They're making adjustments. So why can we not see some more of those adjustments throughout the game? We need to. The unassisted baskets, it's bad. Keegan Murray, 17 unassisted baskets. Kevin Huerter, 7. Keon, 6. Jordan McLaughlin, 5. It's got to come up. What it tells you is these guys, to be successful, need ball movement. They need ball movement. So, coach, you got to hammer those principles down some more. I think they're great principles. I think you are right on track for what this team needs. Again, there's a reason getting to the corners was a principle. Let me give you those numbers again. The Kings from the left corner this season are 29 of 73 from the left corner 3. From the right corner, they are 28 of 58. That's where the Kings want to be. So get there. You got to get there. Seems like they just get the switch and they want to go iso ball. Well, that's the other thing when I was thinking about the coaching aspect. It seems like every team that comes into the G1C, they know the mismatch that they want. They are targeting mismatches. And it doesn't seem like the Kings are always doing that. because it's more of an emotion offense. They're thinking, all right, we're going to make the other team move, right? In lieu of targeting mismatches, we're going to wear them out. We're going to make a move. We're going to swing the ball around for 24 seconds. Hasn't worked out that way. So you got to go one way or the other. You got to target a mismatch if you're going to go to ISO ball, or you've got to keep the ball moving if it's going to be that team type of basketball. So, hey, don't forget, by the way, we are back to our 2:00 time slot tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And it will be the debut of Horsing Around with the NFL. Horse versus Liam. Yes. Haunted Horse will be here giving his picks for this week. We will get Liam's pre-recorded picks, and we are going to track to see who does better the rest of the season. So that will be fun. We'll also have our WWE segment as well. BJ, why haven't we seen some high-low? Dude, I was just going to get there. Great point, BJ. We have not seen it. I talked about it yesterday at the roundtable. You haven't seen high-low action. Now, the pick and roll we started to see before Malik got hurt. Him and Sabonis were cooking together, and then Malik rolled his ankle. And Jerry brought up a really interesting point. He still thinks that Keon should be in the starting lineup, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. And here's why. You put Kevin Huerter into that second unit, and you have Malik Monk playing more minutes with Domantas Sabonis, then you've got a lot more corner looks, theoretically, for Kevin Huerter because of the help that you are going to have to give on that pick and roll. The pick and roll with Malik Monk and Domas is one of the better ones in the NBA. And for whatever reason, we had not seen a ton of it this year until the game that Malik got hurt. The high roll, same thing. We saw it last year. The high-low action, Harrison Barnes, Keegan, it worked more times than not. You got to go to that well a little bit more. Good point by you, BJ. Rhino, is Kevin's three-point shot what it is now? He's a career 38% shooter, but last season he was only at 31%, continuing struggles from last year. So I've got Kevin's report as well. Let me pull up his year-over-year stats. So shooting the three ball, here's how Kevin's looked. This year, he's at 31%, as you pointed out. Last year, 36.1, 22-23, 40.2%, 21-22, 38.9, then 20-21, 36.3, 19-20, 38%, and then rookie year, 38.5%. His best year was 22-23. Now, the looks that he got that year were much different. It was the DHO looks, and it's a great question for what I was getting to and kind of adding to Jerry's point. He's only getting really the DHO looks right now with the first team. He gets a pin down to start the game usually, and then it's up to him to create. And I go back to the number that I said, Alberto. He's created 7 shots on his own that he's made. 7 unassisted shots. So he's not a guy that's going to create his own shot, meaning you have got to implement team basketball with the ball movement for him to excel. And you know what? Most of the shots that Kevin has created on his own that have been unassisted have been around the rim. It's been the floater. It's been getting to the hoop. We've seen him do that pretty well. So on the perimeter, if you're going to go ISO and the ball ends up in his hands, the percentages tell you it's not going to go in. And I think that's what we've seen reflected, especially last year in his percentage and early on in this year. And for the team, he's shooting the ball. He's near the top of the team in shooting the three ball right now, which is crazy because their team percentage is 34%. So, again, ball movement, get to the corners. I can't say that stat enough. The right corner, 28 of 58 this season. 28 of 58. That's almost 50% from beyond the arc. And it's not like a 2-shot sample size. It's 58 shots. The left corner, 29 to 73. Both of those significantly higher than 122 out of 391. Significantly higher, both in the 40s. So, got to get to the corners. To me, you got to put that on the coaching. BJ, I'd put Sabonis at the high elbow and do some motion offense off of his looks and get DeMar moving in some back screens for Keegan. Yeah, the curl was really effective. When DeMar does the curl and they do just a quick little, and you can do a read. What the Kings do is they have reads off of their screens. So that's why we've seen the turnovers, and the turnovers have been too high. We all know that. The turnovers, the unforced turnovers, to me have gone a little bit further into the season for my liking. I got the fact that there were going to be unforced turnovers when you have a new unit playing together. But once we got to game 13, game 14, and we're seeing guys just throw the ball into the crowd, it's not good. But yeah, it's not a bad idea. I just think that you can't have a hands-off approach with this group of guys. And I mean, no disrespect. I have the highest respect for the guys that play for this team. But as a coach, I think there needs to be more structure in the offense. You can call structure, you can define structure however you want to define it. There's got to be a little bit more. There just has to be. You don't have the players that are able to create for themselves outside of Fox and DeMar. And the unassisted baskets tell you that story right there looking at it. So if I'm Coach Brown, if I'm Monty McNair's analytics team, I'm pointing that out. Just like Monty McNair pointed out to Mike Brown about the rebounds. And it's not working so far this year, but it should work. It should. So anyways, BJ, I like Herter against second string. Yeah, it frees him up to score a lot more, in my opinion. There's just not enough shots for the two guard in this offense because of who you have on the court. And actually, that's why Keon makes the most sense, because if Keon's open, he can hit one, which is great. Keon can hit one if he's open, usually. He had a big game the other night, but that's that role that you need, because what you've seen now is DeMar, Domas, and De'Aaron are going to get their shots, right? And then there's only enough for one more person, and Kevin's been the guy getting those looks, and Keegan has really not gotten a ton of looks. It's really hard to get in the flow of an offense. It's extremely hard when you're not touching the basketball. You feel like you are playing a completely different game than everybody else. And then on top of that, with what Keegan's doing on the defensive end, it feels like you've got four guys playing one style and one guy playing a completely different style. So it's early in the season. There is still a lot to look forward to. I've got midterm or progress report grades for everybody. We will keep those going as the show continues. Got about 20 minutes left. Progress report for Bennett. Are you kidding me? Get to Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland, or any of their 3 locations in the greater Sacramento area. Prime cuts of seafood and steak. It's not just that. They've got amazing specials. Weekend brunch, weekend prime rib, always killer, by the way, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. Happy hour. Don't forget about that. 2 to 6, Monday through Friday. And other great specials like your Wine and Dine Mondays. And if you're not thinking about cooking for Thanksgiving, do me a favor. Get to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You can see their hours. They will be open on Thanksgiving. You can make a reservation there. Also, if you would like them to do the cooking for you and you want to bring it home, they are offering family meals that you can pick up, bring home on Thanksgiving, and you don't have to do the work. You can enjoy the spoils and kick your feet up and watch some football. If you've not been to Bennett's, you have to go give it a try. I promise you there is something there for you, from their amazing salads to their daily soups. And like I said, prime cut seafood steak, great sandwiches. Oh, getting hungry thinking about it. 60 different wines by the glass. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring today's episode of the King's Court. I know a number of you have been out to Bennett's, and I really appreciate you guys getting out, letting them know that you heard about them here on the King's Court. Oh, thank you, Alberto. Thanks, buddy. Well, there's no good transition for this, but we're going to talk about it. I think it's only fair to talk about it. And I want to preface this conversation by saying this in no way whatsoever, my take, my decision to bring this subject up, in no way has any relation to my relationship with Grant, my opinion on who should be calling games for the Kings. Because quite frankly, I don't have an opinion. If you ask me honestly, sure. Do I miss Grant and Jerry? Absolutely. Probably like most of you. Okay. But I've got to call a spade a spade. Mark Jones, play-by-play, part-time for your Sacramento Kings. A guy does national games, sometimes outspoken, definitely for some an acquired taste. I am not a huge fan of Mark Jones's style, simply because I like consistency. If I hear Mark Jones on a national broadcast, he doesn't sound anything like he sounds like on a local Kings broadcast. And it makes me wonder why. And when I listen to when he does games here in Sacramento, it seems like he treats our fan base, our games, as a testing ground for whatever one-liners and big words he wants to throw out. It feels like his personal playground to say whatever the hell he wants to say that he is not saying or not allowed to say on a national broadcast. Now, to be fair, last season, I asked Mark a question, a very simple question. I said, hey, Mark, just got a question for you. Why is it that when you're on a national broadcast, you seem to use your analyst much more than you do here in Sacramento? It seems like many times you are switching back and forth between the two roles. He blocked me on Twitter, blocked me for asking that question. Fair enough, to be expected, right? Well, Mark Jones put out a tweet earlier in the week that said he is leaving the X platform because there's too much hate on the platform. Too much hate on the platform. And I'm paraphrasing there. I don't disagree with Mark. There is a lot of hate on the platform. Social media is both the best and the worst thing in the world. It can be really good and it can be really bad. Everybody's an expert. You can say whatever you want without putting your real name or face to it. So yes, there can be a lot of negativity. Okay? But to put out a tweet saying that you are leaving because of the negativity, because it is a hateful place, you better make sure that your hands are clean. You better make sure that you haven't contributed to social media being in that spot. And unfortunately, that is not the case for Mark Jones. Mark Jones, on his social media account throughout his tenure on the X platform, has put out many comments, many that were untrue, about situations involving police, murders, and interactions with the African American community. Mark Jones also tweeted out telling Rush Limbaugh's wife that he will rot in hell the day his wife announced he had died of lung cancer. He had multiple posts calling Stephen A. Smith, quote, a coon, end quote. Posts calling his white colleagues and bosses blind to racism in front of them. Tweets celebrating Nick Bosa's tearing his ACL is payback for standing for the national anthem and supporting Donald Trump. Claims that the Batman character is rooted in racism. A photo saying MAGA women are skanks. Claims that Governor Ron DeSantis is a member of the KKK. Statements that all white people appropriated Jesus. A tweet from Bishop Talbert Swan that white people are, quote, demonic forces of evil, end quote. A tweet comparing Jason Whitlock to a house slave in the film Django Unchained. Tweets calling Queen Elizabeth a racist on the day she died. Yo, Mark, I think you want that tweet back, my man. I think, and I'm not talking about any of the tweets, and that was posted by Outkick. That list came from Outkick. Yo, Mark, if you want to get off the X platform, my man, right off into the sunset without saying a damn word. Do not be a hypocrite and say you are leaving a platform because of hate when you have openly spread hate on your account, on numerous. I should probably take Bennett's down. My bad. I don't want Bennett's up right there. Do not put down social media and say you are leaving because it's hateful when you have done the exact same thing with your account, my man. Bad choice to put that tweet out. Very bad choice. Very, very bad choice. So if leaving social media because of hate, Mark, because it's a hateful place, does that mean that because you're leaving, it is now a better place? According to Outkick, in the different tweets that are hateful that you put out, is that why it's now a better place? Bad stuff, dude. Really bad stuff. Really sad stuff. Very out of touch. Extremely out of touch by Mark Jones. Extremely out of touch. How does Mark Jones get to pick and choose which games he calls? Seems like his ESPN games take precedence over the Kings games. They do. Mark Jones is superficial and a wannabe basketball head. War Rhino asking Mark Jones easy questions. Yeah, Rhino, you get a strong A. It's just he's getting killed online, as he should be. That's why I'm talking about it. Social media is probably one of the most delicate dances that a professional, that any person can do, that they have to navigate, because one wrong word, just like Grant, can change your life. Now, with social media. Okay? If you want to be a part of change, I'm all for that. Change is great. We don't have enough of it. But when you're part of the problem, you're just living in a glass house. Like, who the hell do you think you are? And it doesn't just go for Mark Jones. It goes for anybody else. Make sure your hands are clean before you start spouting off. Mark Jones deserves everything he is getting right now online, because you, sir, were part of the problem. Don't sit here and act like a knight riding off into the sunset. You should have just shut your account off and walked away. It's what happens. It catches up with you. It's in ink. Jim Rome says all the time, the internet is permanent. It's in ink. It's forever, dude. You put something out in 280 characters and you take it back 30, 45 seconds later, somebody has screenshotted it. So it still lives. It's out there, man. Bad decision. Bad look for the Kings. I mean, really bad look for the Kings. It just doesn't make sense, man. Should have just turned your account off and walked away. Should have just turned it off and walked away. Out of touch. Sincerely, Mark's Ja Rule quotes. It's crazy, man. I don't have a problem with the way if Mark Jones wants to use rap quotes, if he wants to use whatever analogies he wants, go for it. I love it. Have your own style, but be yourself. Like, obviously, the way you're calling games in Sacramento is either the real Mark Jones or it's the fake Mark Jones, or it's the Mark Jones that doesn't give a shit about Sacramento. It's one of the three, because the way he calls national games is completely different. Go watch how he called a national game last night. Tell me if you hear any of those analogies. Maybe you'll hear MIDI, you'll hear on a flight, and that's about it. So why don't we deserve the same professionalism that you give a national broadcast, Mark? I'd love to know that. Or why doesn't the national audience deserve the same professionalism that you give Sacramento? Which one is it, Mark? It can't be both. Rhino's rant on weak asses Mark Jones 9.89. I was disgusted when I was reminded of all the hateful stuff he has put on social media. Pretty ironic, too. Stuff that was on social media before he got this job. Yeah, no, not so much. I forgot the Bennett's thing was up. I felt bad about that. What did Alberto say? Alberto, Mark Jones engages in a lot of virtue signaling. Is what it is. Look, you know the one who I feel really bad for? The one that I feel really bad for is Katie Christensen. Katie Christensen. Yeah, Ryan, get him on the show for open forum questions. Dude, he blocked me for asking me asking a question about his style. He blocked me. So I don't have that access to him. But I feel bad for Katie. Katie takes so much crap around here. She takes so much heat from this fan base. She's not very good. She talks too much. The reality is, Katie got thrown into the damn fire. And the most important thing for somebody that is learning is to have consistency. And she has none. She goes from working with Mark to working with Drapes to working with Mark to working with Drapes. Why do you think Grant and Jerry were so good for all those years? Because there was consistency. It's not just consistency on the air. It's consistency off the air. It's time spent together off the air. Katie has to do two different styles. She has to know two different types of cues. She has to, it's incredibly difficult. And then on top of that, guess what? You're calling an NBA basketball game. So, if anything, I think we need to have some grace for Katie. I think she's doing a fine job. Sure. Is there things she can improve on? Absolutely. Are there things we can all improve on in our jobs? Absolutely. So she is the one that it's got to be really difficult for. And I love Drapes. I make Drapes the full-time guy here in Sacramento. He's here. He's available. And, Sacramento, by the way, we will embrace you as one of our own. We will. We always have. I would confidently say Sacramento has embraced Kyle Draper. Even though he came from Boston, Sacramento has embraced him and sees him as one of our own now. I can't say the same thing is true for Mark Jones, although Mark Jones acts like he is one of our own. No. Doesn't happen. So, anyways, Katie cuddles him like a child. Yeah, well, look, it is what it is. I bet you he goes on a soliloquy on the next broadcast, portraying himself as a victim while Katie consoles him. Yeah, well, you know what? I think that there is, it tells you everything that you need to know, and I will end here. It tells you everything that you need to know that somebody that has put that much hate on social media, targeted at people of all different kinds of race. This isn't about race. People of all different types of race has the nerve for their swan song, for their goodbye, to say, I'm leaving because it's a hateful place. You know what that tells me? That tells me somebody is extremely out of touch with who they are. That's what that tells me. You are living on a different planet. Mark, it's a simple rule. If you're going to dish it out, you got to be able to take it, my man. You do not know how to take it. Self-inflicted shot, buddy. Shot yourself in the foot with that one. You should have just turned off your account and walked away. Kings injuries cost them at least 2 wins. Don't disagree. Absolutely, Lids. Hi, Lids. Hope you're well. Thanks for making it in. We are out, though. We are out of time. We're back tomorrow. Remember, 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. We move back to our normal time slot. Royal Rumble Friday. By the way, don't forget, Grant is going to be here at 4 o'clock. Open forum today. So join him for that. We have the debut of Horsing Around with the NFL Looking forward to that segment as well. Make it a great rest of the day. Make sure you join Grant again, 4 o'clock. He'll be right here on the channel. Looking forward to it. Thanks for being here today, y'all. Appreciate the support. 2 p.m. we wrap up the week. Royal Rumble Friday. See you at 4 o'clock with Grant. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Stay away from Levine. Court is dismissed.